Our first presentation comes from Monique Guichard from Bronx Community College. Her presentation is titled Flipping the Script, Rewriting Educational Narratives of Latino Students at Bronx Community College. She is also joined by Brandel Barcena, Jonathan Enriquez, and Suleika Rodriguez. Without further ado, your presenters.
Awesome. Good morning. Okay. So there are like 4 prezzies open? Okay. So thank you for that welcome. I guess this is weird to be here. I actually kind of disjointed experience. I am a tenured lecturer at BCC, but I actually adjunct in the behavioral sciences department here, and I actually teach in this room. And I was here last night, so this is kind of surreal. I actually don't want to talk that much. If you read my abstract, so I'm a graduate of BCC. I'm a graduate of Lehman. I'm a graduate of the CUNY Graduate Center. I'm a CUNY kid. I'm a Black and Dominican professor who has heard, as you have, interesting master discourse about Latino students, like what they can't do. I feel like I'm always bombarded. Particularly by some of my colleagues, about stuff that they can't do. They can't write, they can't do math well, they can't do lots of stuff. I want to talk a little bit about BCC as distinguished from OSTOS, and then I'm actually just going to give the floor to my students who are rather nervous, but I'm trying to convince them that the room is filled with love, right? Okay, cool. This is actually weird, so I'm going to switch to that. Okay. So these are the most recent figures from our institutional research office, right, that says Bronx Community College, compared to probably all CUNY schools, has like the worst retention rates, the worst graduation rates, the lowest transfer out rates. If we looked at more data about how long it actually takes our students to graduate from BCC, the number that they like us to share is that in 6 years, 20% of our students will get an associate's degree. I talk to my students all the time about being a BCC graduate, but going to a BCC that was so different than the one that they currently attend. I graduated in January of 1999. That was before the split, where if students required remediation, they were forced to go to the community college. And if they didn't, they went to the senior college. Even in terms of demographics, BCC had much more white and Asian students when I attended than it does now. Okay, cool. Okay, so if we looked at like a racial, ethnic, gender breakdown of student graduation rate in those 6 years, we see that Latino students, particularly Latino male students, perform the worst, okay, or graduate the least, rather, okay. So I can talk a little bit during the Q&A about learned helplessness, right? I think that is a huge problem that BCC students are facing. I've learned that it's important for me, for my students to have like moments of success, right? I completed several digital teaching trainings in my tenure at BCC. I completed the podcasting workshop. I completed the TWT workshop, and anything that I learned, I taught it to my students, right? I'm a social psychologist by training. In my SP class, and Jellington, Suleika are in my hybrid SP class, and Brando is in my in-person SP class. Part of their grade is they have to do a student lecture, right? So they have to, I'm trying to get them to be engaged in their learning. I'm skipping some stuff in the interest of time. And we all know Bloom's wonderful taxonomy, right? Tired of hearing about this thing. I know that my students remember, I know that my students understand, I know that they can apply and analyze a lot of the concepts that I'm teaching them. I really want them to get to the top of that taxonomy where they're creators of knowledge, right? So without further ado, you're going to hear and see 2 wonderful student presentations, one from the social influence chapter and another from the social self chapter. Cool. Okay.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Erika Rodriguez,
My name is Jonathan Henriquez.
and today we're going to be talking about social influence.
So, what is social influence? Social influence is the way the people around us impact us and the way they affect our attitudes, beliefs, feelings, and behaviors.
That social influence have different aspects. Those aspects are conformity, obedience, and compliance.
So, what is conformity? Conformity is when we give in to the pressure placed on us by the people around us. But this pressure could be real or it could be imagined by the person. Why do people conform? People conform for several different reasons. One reason is normative influence. Sometimes these people want to be a part of a group, so they conform to be a part of that group. So it's not really like they are like that, but in order to be a part of the group, they actually change their behavior. Informational influence is when the person changes his or her beliefs in order to be correct. So you might have been wrong, but you realize that this is correct, so you change your beliefs. And then the other one is automatic mimicry. We could all be in this very room laughing, and he might not know what's going on, but he's still gonna laugh because he doesn't want to seem like the odd one out. We all have seen the Above the Influence campaign. It's been on TV for years, it's been everywhere, and it's just trying to get teens not to conform into their peers that are doing drugs and drinking alcohol at such a young age. Solomon Asch conducted an experiment about conformity. It's called the Solomon Asch Conformity Experiment. So we could all see that which lines are equal, A, this one, and C. Well, Solomon Asch wanted to see what the participant would say. He filled the room just like this, filled with participants. He put up the picture, and he asked, "Oh, which stick on the right is the same size as the stick on the left?" But what the participant didn't know was that the room was full of Confederates, and these Confederates were told to pick the wrong answer on purpose, so they would pick A or B, knowing that the right answer was C, to see what the person would say. Astonishingly, 1/3 of the time, participants chose the wrong answer on purpose in order to be a part of the group, to not seem odd or try to fit in. This is a small clip about the experiment.
Person with a white t-shirt. The others are Confederates of the experimenter and have been told to give wrong answers on some of the trials. The experiment begins uneventfully as subjects give their judgments.
Two. 3. 3.
But on the third trial, something happens.
2. 2.
The subject denies the evidence of his own eyes and yields to group influence. Asch found subjects went along with the group on 37% of the critical trials. But he found through interviews that they went along with the group for different reasons.
1. They must be right. There are 4 of them and 1 of me. 1.
This subject's yielding is based on a distortion of his judgment.
So that's Solomon Asch experiment.
Another aspect of social influence is obedience. Obedience is a form of social influence when the individual acts in response to an order for authority or higher figure. How is obedience different from conformity? It's different in status because in obedience, people tend to follow orders from a person with a higher status. While in conformity, a person just follow an order for a equal status, like our friends and stuff like that. It differs in orders because obedience tends to follow the orders of the person, with a higher status and the same thing. It's different social power because obedience tends to have the social power, and then in conformity just tends to have the equal status. What are the limits of power or authority when it comes to obedience? This is the question Solomon asked himself when he did the experiment. He wanted to find out how people would react to, I'm sorry, I'm nervous.
Great.
Notice.
Milgram.
He wanted, Milgram wanted to find out how people would really react when they were under the orders of a person with a higher status. In the experiment he conducted, there were 40 male participants. They were to follow orders from the experimenter. They were to deliver electrical shocks to other person, but they didn't know that the electrical shocks were fake. The more questions they asked to the person, and if they answered wrong, they would deliver electrical shocks higher and higher, up to 450 volts. But what were the results? Milgram found out that 60% of the people would deliver the maximum electrical shocks on the order of a higher authority and figure.
Compliance. Compliance is following the request of another person, even though this request might go against your moral beliefs. So an example would be agreeing to do, an example of compliance would be when you agree to drink alcohol with your friends at a party, even though you know you are against drinking alcohol. You may deny it several times, but in the end you still end up drinking alcohol.
Examples of compliance are the door in the face technique. The door in the face technique is when somebody asks you for a large commitment, but then you refuse, and then they ask you again for a small commitment, so you feel the guilt to accept. Example of the door in the face technique is when somebody asks you if they came out of the $100, and then you say, I don't have that much. And then when they ask you again, you're like, let me ask for $10, which is less. Can I borrow the $10? Yeah, sure, why not? Because in the first one, you refused to accept, but since this one's smaller, you're gonna accept. Oops. The other technique is the foot in the door. The foot in the door is when a person asks you for a small favor, and then when you accept that small favor, they feel like they could ask you for a bigger one. When, for example, you are at your workplace and your coworker asks you for filling a day for them, and then they say, since he filled a day for me, why can he not fill the whole week for me? So they ask you for that request, and then you will be likely to accept.
The lowball effect is almost similar to the foot in the door, but when they ask you to do something for them, and then this action comes with a lot more than what was really originally intended. So they could your boss might ask you to stay a little later at work, but when you stay a little later, then you have to do this and do that, and there's a whole bunch of extra stuff that he did not tell you were gonna have to do. So it might have made you think twice about it, and he did not tell you on purpose.
And for the end, we're gonna leave you with this quote that you guys already know, I believe, which is from John F. Kennedy. Conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth.
Thank you, everybody, and that concludes our presentation.
Why do we already know? Because we're old? Is that a jab?
No.
Would you like me to click for you?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Morning, everyone. My name is Brandon Barcina, and I'm here to present you about the self-presentation and impression management. Okay. Self-presentations refer to the way we present ourselves and what we allow others to see from us. A person can present him or herself and manage their impression they make in many different ways. For example, the way a person dresses, the way a person speaks, even the way they walk tells something about the person itself. There are also many, besides the way we can dress and we can speak, we can manage ourselves online, which is actually easier. That's like the way we can make up our personality more. For example, here. This is the Facebook version of you, and this is the realistic version of you. We can see here there's totally two different personas. Like, This can be like a rock star, a skater, and actually you're a couch potato. So yeah, two different spectrums of the same person. Also, when you're talking to somebody online, for example, here, this girl's asking the guy, "Hi, how are you? You're so cute. What do you like to do after school?" And then the person replies, "I'm a 14-year-old, a bit of fitness fanatic. I often go to powerlifting and after school." Clearly, that's a lie. But it's also a way to manage your identity. Now, we have multiple faces. The faces we allow the public to see, and the face we have for ourselves that we know we are. That's our public self-awareness, our public self-conscious, and private self-conscious. Public self-conscious is our awareness of society, of what society thinks of ourselves and what we are. Public self-conscious is the part of the self we get to manipulate and bend at will. For example, if you want people to think that you're a decent person, you might dress as a decent person, for example, like a suit or a fancy watch, or even use fancy language, so that can project the society that you are a decent person. Private self-conscious, on the other hand, it's your own belief of what you are. That's the part that most people don't know about you, and if they do, it's like a limited amount of people. Like you can project yourself as a really confident and outrageous person to society, but in reality, you're really scared and timid, like I am right now. And that's the difference between those two. Now, self-handicapping. Self-handicapping are self-defeating behaviors that we do or say to avoid negative judgment from society. An example of that is, if you see or think that I'm doing a bad presentation because I'm kind of sloppy and my accent is not that good, it is not because it's not because I'm a bad presenter. It's because I didn't do enough research.
Is that true?
It is, for the most part. Yeah, moving on. Right, so flirtation and teasing. These are the techniques we use to socialize with other people in the society around us. Now, on-record communications is the words that we say and we mean it, like literally. For example, if I say I'm gonna walk down the street, you're gonna see me walking down the street. But off-record communications are indirect or hinting language that we use to flirt or socialize with other people. For example, if I said I'm gonna walk down the road to somebody, it's letting them know that I'm gonna walk past there, but not necessarily to that road, meaning that I'm gonna go to their house or something. But those two ways of communication can interact or overlap with each other. And this video is an example of that.
Dude, she's so hot. Then go talk to her. What am I supposed to say?
Anything?
What do you mean? Just go. Hi.
Hey,
I like your face.
thanks.
Damn, what's up, bro? Hey, girl, come here. Hey, man, what the fuck, dog? Maybe louder, dog. Oh, shit, you're right. I hadn't even thought about that, fool. Hey, good looking now, dog. Good looking now. Hey, shh. Hey.
Excuse me?
No, I was just... I guess what I was trying to say is...
Sorry, what?
Wait, what?
Are you saying something?
No. Uh-huh. Come on, Josh, just say something. It's not like you're ever gonna see her again. Would you like to go outside? Fine. Hey, what's up, girl? What you doing?
Huh?
Oh, nothing? Or maybe we could do a little thumb, girl.
What are you trying to say?
That's off-record
You
communication.
know, maybe we could rendezvous, watch some school we do, make it do what it do. Oh no! Hey, what up, girl?
Hey?
You like this song?
Not really.
How about my car?
Yeah, it's one of the environment.
Man, fuck the environment.
What's up, girl?
Yo, what's up?
Fun.
Where you live?
You got a boyfriend?
Do you want one?
You want a kiss?
Yeah, you wanna make out?
With tongue?
Lots of tongue.
Sure.
What the fuck? Shit, dude, what are we supposed to do?
We've never gone this far.
So what do we say? Just say something like what? Give improvise, dude.
So?
So at the end, we see an overlapping of off-record and on-record communication because he was saying something off-record, but she actually took it literal. And she said yes, so she committed to the move.
I hope you don't flirt like that for real.
I don't.
Okay.
Trust me. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.